Hey there, it's Teresa from Wild Mira, and I come to give you an update on our Rewilding Abandoned Eucalyptus Plantations project. Today I would like to tell you what we've been up to in fieldwork since the autumn started. So if you are new to this project, please check our previous videos where we explain the whole rationale behind this project and also where we tell what we have done so far since the beginning of the project in the winter of 2025. But very briefly, we were cutting eucalyptus trees throughout winter and spring, and in summer we had to stop this cutting work due to the wildfire risk, but it's also when we had to focus most on eucalyptus resprouting control. This is a huge part of this project, to find an optimal protocol to halt the resprouting of the vigorous eucalyptus stumps. And since there is no conclusion yet on what is the best method for the species of Eucalyptus globulus and the conditions that we have in the south of Portugal, one of its many non-native areas, we have set to test all the reasonable methods that we found in literature research and from other practitioners' experiences. The method that we are testing here is the persistent cutting of the shootings. More than half of the stumps are already dead, I would say actually most of them. But of course we can only do the full statistical analysis when the whole trial is completed, and then we will publish a little technical report on this. But for now, a preliminary analysis tells us that there are no big differences in their effectiveness and the rate and the time at which they start halting the resprouting of the stumps. And so this tells us that monthly frequency definitely pays off in comparison to cutting bi-weekly or weekly. In this riverbank area, that since we started the felling of eucalyptus trees on the stretch that is really bordering the river Mira, and where we had most advanced natural regeneration of riparian gallery habitat. You can see behind me there is some ashes and some alders too, and we had here really tall eucalyptus trees crowding over these native riparian trees. It was very challenging work. In the autumn, we also grew our field team. We are now joined by Edgar and Luis, who are our full-time field workers, and they got immediately started with our leftover piles of eucalyptus branches that needed processing. Here there was a big pile of eucalyptus branches, so the remaining from the cutting of the eucalyptus trees. There's part that is sellable wood that you can see there, which we did sell to cover project expenses. And then the remaining, this is still not finished, we shredded with our wood chipper into wood chips. And these wood chips, some of them we used to fill in these barriers that we created, and the remaining, which is the most of it, we are using to do some trials about using eucalyptus wood chips as mulch for forest restoration. So we're starting one of these trials at our plant nursery first, and then we are hoping to use these wood chips at the topmost and more arid areas of this hillside. Some of the thicker branches we could use to create our log erosion barriers. This is a very ancient method for controlling erosion on high slopes. So the way to do it is very simple. It's about placing logs on contour or on keyline. We prefer to do more smaller steps than lesser, bigger steps. We try to use the eucalyptus stumps as natural structures to also hold the logs. So you can see they are held up here by this stump and over there by that other stump. Then we fill in the space right above it with even more branches, the finer branches, and then with the wood chips. if there is available soil, dirt should definitely be used. But yeah, what's important is to use the most local natural resources that one has available. And in our case, that was eucalyptus wood chips, so we fill them in. Right now, it doesn't look like it was that disturbed because we've already had some rain and the green is coming back, but also especially because we did this work before. And so now we are retaining the soil and we've created the conditions for vegetation to come back. But if you see before pictures, just before the autumn, you can see this. Yeah, it was not looking like this. It was very exposed and having really erosion happening and going on. And it was really good that we did this before the big rains that we had just this winter, because had we not done this, we would have had much more soil erosion with the rains and the wind. And instead of that, we actually could stop some of the sediments and seeds, and we are seeing now vegetation coming back around here. The next logical steps were to assist natural regeneration in some of these disturbed areas. So on the log barriers, we want to seed oaks, so this is acorns, and to plant some ash trees. In the lower areas where we have big dominance by brambles, we cleared, controlled some of these thick patches of brambles and got them ready for planting also with ash and alders that we've been propagating at our native plant nursery for over a year, with seeds collected from exactly this area. As we were just ready to start with this tree planting work of the riparian gallery, Portugal got hit by a historical winter of intense rain and storms. The north and the center of the country were the most affected, with the river basins of Montego, Tejo, and Sado seeing floods with a recurrence time of 60 to 50 years. Here in the Mira basin, we've also got an historical flood, which size we hadn't seen since 97, so it's a 30-year recurrence time flood. As you can imagine, it did flood parts of our project. It's not only that some of the sites that we intended to plant were really flooded because the bramble areas are on the floodplain. It's also that to access this site, we have to cross several streams whose valleys were completely flooded. So our field work here was halted by more or less a month. Fortunately, we had no major losses in our project. This is not the same for everybody. There were major social, economic damages, but here, the first time the flood arrived, we did have to move our shelter. None of our equipment is damaged, and then we could relocate the shelter and the wood chipper on time to not be hit by the second wave of the flood, and it was really much worse. Here, the major issues that we had were some landslides on the road. There is a really big one that even had the vegetation falling perfectly with it. Despite all that, floods are part of a river natural hydrological regime. And in that sense, they are a natural needed process. So we see them as a good thing. Also for the river Mira, this was a very necessary process to return, because it does wash out a lot of things in the river. It replenishes the floodplain with sediments, seeds, the hydrogeomorphology of the riverbanks. Now, there is an issue we are concerned about. This relates to another project of ours, the Saving Endemic Fish, which is floods that are this violent, and one cannot associate this event with climate change, but we do know that with climate change, these events will just get more intense and frequent. So it makes sense to have this example to plan for the future. Usually the bottlenecks for our endemic fish are the summer droughts, when they really have very scarce water to live on to survive. And our saving endemic fish will be very much about conserving and restoring their summer refuges, which are the river pools. Now, moving on with the project, we are starting a new cutting area at the top of the hill. Now it's going to be a bit slightly different forest structure. So we have less, here we are at the bottom of the hill, but you can see what is happening. We have a bit lesser advanced natural regeneration. It's not so much the habitat structure of a riparian gallery, it's more of a Mediterranean scrublands. But we do have some trees, some cork oaks, Portuguese oaks, wild strawberry trees growing in the middle of the eucalyptus trees, which on the hillside are much smaller, much thinner, and so not as challenging to remove, though we are still working on a slope. We are starting this work right now. We have many different trials prepared for this area, not only in terms of respouting control, since we'll be testing all the other different methods. Besides the persistent cutting, we are talking about fungi inoculation, we're talking about tarping, covering the stumps with some material, herbicide application even, and debarking. Also some assisting natural regeneration trials, a trial on the thinning intensities that can optimize the natural regeneration later, and so on. So to start, before starting this work, we also had a task before for the field team, which was to rehabilitate an old windmill ruin that we had, that there is on a neighbor's land right at the top of this hill. And the guys did an amazing job using basic tools and eucalyptus wood from the most nearby eucalyptus stumps that they had close. And with these, they were able to refurbish the whole door structure, which was just falling apart, to create a deck on the middle of the windmill and the roof. They also redid the floor with using schist stones. They did the door using the eucalyptus and then just zinc plates. And now we have a strong, solid shelter at this area closer to where we'll be working, that is resistant to storms and flooding. And so we're all very happy here at Wilder Mira with this. So now we have the conditions to get started again with cutting eucalyptus. So stay in tune for our next updates on how the work resumed in this new area. And also on the next vlog, I can let you know already that we'll be talking about the results. We'll be disclosing our conclusions from our summer monitoring campaign of the endemic fish populations and its freshwater habitats. Stay in tune. Thank you for watching and following Mossy Earth. Cheers.